I would like to welcome everyone this morning to City Hall. We're here today to basically to discuss public safety in the city of Miramar. Um, Obviously, every day we wake up, we see a lot of media events that are taking place in the Midwest, up in Ferguson, based on last week's decision in their city that has basically resulted in a lot of protests and even some destructive demonstrations in that city, which is really quite unfortunate. And I felt there was a need to basically address the residents, the business community in the city of Miramar as a result of many questions and inquiries from residents and just people who care about our city, just asking how prepared is Miramar, and obviously we would hate to have our city endure the circumstances that's currently being experienced up in Ferguson, Missouri. So I thought that it was important for me to come out and at least give my personal perspective of what's going on and how our city can best move forward as it relates to public safety, and to see what we can do to continue to build our public trust between the residents and our law enforcement community and with our residents. So I'm taking this opportunity now to highlight what our city is currently doing to further build public trust between our residents and law enforcement. I will share basically just some concerns that some of our residents have expressed, and some may be personally concerns of mine as well. And finally, propose some policy recommendations for our city commission to consider for adoption. It is my belief that being proactive in educating the public of our existing resources, being honest about our deficiencies, and adopting policies that unite our city is really the best approach for us to build partnerships between our residents and our public safety professionals. When we do this effectively in Miramar, it better serves and positions us to prevent the type of events that are taking place and have taken place up in Ferguson. Miramar is a safe, beautiful, and diverse city, and I'm committed to providing the leadership that will keep Miramar as one of the best cities in America to live, work, visit, and play. At this time, I would like to introduce our Miramar Police Chief Black, and I'm going to ask Chief Black to share with us what the city has been doing and what we're currently doing right now to engage our community, to help further build partnership with the community, our residents, with our law enforcement officers in our department, and as well as inform the community about our Miramar Citizens Police Academy, which has done a great deal of partnering hands-on on a grassroots level our residents and interfacing them with our public safety officials, and specifically our police officers. So at this time, I'll ask Chief Black to come forward just to give us some insight on the public relations and public interaction between the residents and our police department.
We're talking about issues that affect a lot of what we do in terms of how we provide service, law enforcement services to Miramar, every single day. Of course, this isn't Ferguson, but there isn't a chief in Broward County that will tell you that the issues that are being addressed nationwide now, from the president's office to every single department in the country, these conversations are going on, and Miramar is a part of that conversation. The issues that you're hearing, reading, seeing, discussing, from trust, representation, gaps, things that we can do to improve and maintain effective relationships do matter, and they matter in Miramar. I love talking about the department and the things that we do, and one of the things that makes us a good department, one of the best departments, is that We do subscribe that diversity is a strength. Representation of our officers and who we select and who we decide to put in the neighborhoods and business districts to patrol is a very important decision. We are, like many other cities in Broward County or across probably the state or if not nation, do recognize that demographics representation is important. The gaps that we do have, we are addressing. I am happy or pleased to tell you that in Broward County, about 1.8 million people, we have one of the most diverse police departments of any size, the size of Miramar in Broward County. It's still a work in progress. One of our successes has and continues to be one of the programs we do, which I'm really proud to speak about, and I'm really pleased that Commissioner Messon brought it up. I actually attended one of our recent Citizens Police Academy graduations. I'd love to sit here or stand here and take credit for it, but I didn't start it. It's been a program that was initiated here 20 years ago. And I can tell you that any community that wants to improve, and not just improve community relations, but also we have a responsibility to help people understand better what it is police do. The Citizens Police Academy is a 14-week program that residents volunteer to come out to. Residents or people that have businesses or have an interest in Miramar attend this academy. We run about 2 a year. We started this program 20 years ago. We just had class graduation, I think it was 38, Commissioner, class number 38 sessions. The residents come out for 14 weeks, and during those 14 weeks, they learn about the day-to-day operations of the police department. They learn about crime prevention measures and DUI and how to do CPR, but they get a chance to know the officers, the men and women that wear the uniforms, and what we do. And they leave with a better appreciation, I think, or understanding what we do. They also leave, and some of them come back. Many of them come back as volunteers. That enhances our department. They're part of our success. We can't afford to hire, 100 people a year. We use our volunteers that come from the community. A lot of those individuals come from this program. They turn into citizens on patrol. They turn to code ranger volunteers. But they also turn to our eyes and ears, because by educating and informing the public, we're getting the message out to them that say, hey, when crime is occurring, if something is taking place in your neighborhood or your community, we want you to call us. And we get calls in Miramar. I can tell you a big part of our success, our crime rate is down 11-12% year to date. A lot of our success is, I can attribute to the fact that the community does call us. We have to be a transparent, responsive, and accountable police department at all times. And I don't take that for granted, nor do I believe any of my staff does. You have to work on it constantly. We also have to work in partnership with the commission. Commissioner Messon and the team of elected officials that are here to serve the residents, and they've got a hard job also. We have to work together, whether it's how we dress, how we deal with programs, and our accountability. These are all very important measures, and I take it very seriously. Any opportunity going forward, Commissioner, to work with you or the team that you want to take a look at how we can improve and how we can present ourselves fairly accurately and with a purpose of improving, I'm certainly open and welcome that opportunity. But thank you all very much. Also, I'd be remiss if I don't mention our next Citizens Police Academy is scheduled in February next year. We run about 2 a year. If you live in the city or have somebody in the city has an interest in going to the academy, you go to our website, MiramarPD.org, and there's a phone number there also to call for more information. And I'll be happy later on to answer any questions. Thank you.
As you can see, the City of Miramar, through the resource of the Citizens Police Academy, provides an opportunity for our residents to see the life, our day in the life of our police officers, and more importantly, as Chief Black stated, get a chance to learn and know and develop relationships with our police department. And as a result, it has brought some positive benefits to our community. As we continue to build that public trust, the word build, construct means that you're putting elements together. So if we're building public trust, that means the final product isn't necessarily complete. So as we continue to move forward, we have to also recognize areas of opportunities for us to get better. One of the concerns that I've received from the public is inquiring what is the demographic makeup of the Miramar Police Department. As Chief Black stated before, compared to other police departments in the county, Miramar does better. However, when we look internally within our city, and benchmark it against the demographic of our very diverse community, we have some ground to make. Our police department isn't reflective completely as a demographic of the city of Miramar. The reason why that is important because it's well known that the closer a police department demographic matches the community, it just creates an environment and the potential to have very strong relationships because the residents in the community identify with police officers that look like them, go to the same restaurants as them, share same cultural backgrounds. It's just a natural cohabitation of similar interests. Not to say that any particular demographic can't provide adequate protection of a community, but it is the best scenario is to match a police department as closely as possible to the community that it serves. And in that area, the city of Miramar has some ground to make. Currently, right now, we're about 17.4% when you look at African American police officers for our police department. Now, that is some improvement based on where the police department used to be. And there continues to be improvement there. And my conversations with the city manager, as well with some of the conversations with Police Chief Black, that issue is very important. It's a priority. And the city is taking steps and developing programs to move our city forward so that our police department improves in that area. I have all the confidence that our police department will continue to keep our city safe, and I also have the confidence that our city administration, our public safety administration, and this commission will do everything that is legally possible to ensure that our police and fire departments will reflect the community that we all serve. Because when we do that, it will further help build the public trust and improve our community relations. Now, finally, I would like to propose a policy recommendation and a feasibility study for my colleagues on the Miramar Commission to consider. But before I move on to that policy recommendation and the request for a feasibility study that I will be requesting our commission to take on, I just want to make it perfectly clear that these are my personal recommendations. It is not reflective of, it may be consistent or maybe not, but it's not, I'm not speaking on behalf of the city manager or city administration. I'm not speaking on behalf of our police and fire chief. This is Commissioner Messam speaking in what I think will help move us better to that ideal scenario. But a policy recommendation that I will be bringing forward to the commission is for us to create a public safety advisory board. And that public safety advisory board, if and when adopted, would serve as a liaison between the residents and the business community and our police and fire department. And what I would recommend, and obviously we would have to perhaps go into a workshop, meet with our police and fire department to see how best and effective this board could function. The concept would be that every commission would appoint a resident, or maybe a corporate resident of the city. The fire chief, the police chief can recommend or appoint a representative, as well as the city manager. And that board would serve to communicate, educate the community on programs such as the Citizens Police Academy. It will serve as a venue for residents to express concerns. Obviously, if there's a complaint, they can go directly to the department, but it will serve as an additional resource where complaints can perhaps come to, and that advisory board can be an advocate for that complaint. And it will just basically, the overall purpose will be to liaise between the community and provide an opportunity to be able to address and bring some of these concerns. Because I really believe that when there's a forum and an opportunity for the community to express issues of concern, you don't have the festering and building of lack of trust that is experienced in other communities around the country that could potentially lead to what we're seeing up in Ferguson when an unfortunate event may take place. Because when we in Miramar have good public trust and partnership between our law enforcement officers, our fire department, and the residents, in a scenario, God forbid, where we have a police-involved shooting in our city, that event can be addressed for what it is, an isolated event, and not a part of an overall issue dealing with public trust. And that's what we don't welcome here. We don't have that issue here, and we want it to remain that way. The other recommendation that I would like to do, and one of the things that the attorneys of the Brown family recommended from the issue in Ferguson, was that it's in the event where there's discrepancies of what happens in these events, what resources could be made available to be able to document what exactly happened. There's many resources that could be used, as far as like maybe a dash cam or body cams. You've heard of different resources. So I'll be recommending to our commission to do a feasibility study to look at the pros and cons of acquiring some of those assets, to see if that is something that will further help us build to that ideal scenario that we all are looking for in the city of Miramar. If adopted, and if that's the decision that the commission decides to do, it could potentially protect our police officers, potentially protect our residents, and address many issues. But it's just a recommendation to see if that's something that is right for Miramar. There's some local municipalities have gone that route. They've made that decision that it's something that may potentially benefit their community. We have to answer that question here. Obviously, there's a lot of discussion that we have to do internally as a commission, with recommendations from our law enforcement professionals to see what is good, what is bad, how best it can fit our work here. And I think at the end of the day, our residents and my boss want to know that as an elected official, that I'm asking the right questions, that I'm asking some of the tough questions, talking about some of the topics that may not necessarily be comfortable to talk about. But at the end of the day, we all have the goal of serving our residents. We all have the goal of continuing to make our city one of the best places in America to live. I'm proud to represent this city. I'm proud to know that we live in a very safe community. Our police department and our police officers wake up every day putting their lives on the line to ensure that we have that safety. And we respect that, and we want to make sure that they have all the resources they have. And we also want to make sure that our residents have the opportunity to build strong relationships with our public safety professionals, as well as provide opportunities to ensure that all of our interests are protected and continues to move our city forward. So with that said, I thank our city staff for making this conference and address possible. I thank each of you for being here. We have a total of 195 police officers. If that's just our police officers or if that includes command staff, I'm not sure. Police Chief Black can confirm that. And the numeric breakdown of the 195 is that there are 6 Asian, there are 34 African American or Black, there are 60 Hispanic, there are 3 other, and 92 white or Caucasian officers. So, as Chief Black stated, that when you compare those numbers to other police departments in the county, Miramar is in a much better position. However, when you benchmark it against the demographics of our city, we still have some ground to make. But again, there's no exact science of how many of police officers should be on the street. From my personal perspective, is that when our police department matches the reflection of our community, it provides a environment or a better opportunity to further strengthen public trust and relations with the community, for the mere fact that our residents, when they're out about living their lives and doing what they do in our beautiful city, they see public officials, public safety officials that look like, talk like, and live like them. Those are just personal relation characteristics that just makes the environment for a harmonious community.
I read, for instance, you probably saw some of the articles, like New York Times wrote an article several weeks ago talking about gaps in the nation. And when I read that, and we look at the news like everybody else does, we start realizing that, hey, we need to be in a position to start looking at those numbers, to be prepared to answer these questions. I actually staff's been working on a presentation to give back to the City Manager Commission to kind of talk about what we're addressing today. I've been chief since last year. I actually, because of this, I took a moment to take a look at how we're doing with our hiring practices, what's our trend line, how do we look this year versus 10 years ago. Since last year when I took over, I can tell you 80% of the officers, we're talking about now just the police officers, right? People that have the weapons and the arrest power. 87% of the people I've hired since I've been chief are minorities. 31% of that are African American. I just did the number crunching here, and I think I have about 40% of my command staff represents a protected class. Now, having said that, the numbers sound good, but I've been here 30 years. And if those you go back a long time with Miramar or South Florida knows that Miramar's changed quite a bit over the years. And Rowan, I know you've been here a long time. So I can account for that, just like, and I understand the city has changed. And I agree completely with what Commissioner Messam is saying and many others across the country. And the people that I'm accountable to, not just to the residents, but we're also a nationally and state accredited police department. Every 3 years we get inspected. Every 3 years somebody in a commission organization is asking me, hey chief, how you doing with your numbers of diversity? We are always taking a look at that. And you're right, it really has to do, what is our recruitment plan? Where are we going out? Where are we finding the next set of officers and staff coming in the department? That's the critical part about it. That's the work in progress. And we go to a lot of education institutions, we network, we're always looking for an applicant that helps us close those gaps, and it really has to be on the front end. This is where the organizations out there can help us with that. Whether we go outsource or we go and we partner with existing institutions, education institutions, things like for us, perhaps a high school Job Corps placement for community service aides. I'm actually looking at that right now. I haven't presented to the commission yet, but it's a work in progress. I will tell you this, I take my responsibility so seriously though, that once the applications are through the door, whatever the applicants that come through the door, as a certified police officer or somebody who wants to be hired, wants a career in law enforcement, wants to go to the police academy, once that process takes hold, we apply all the same standards, policies from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement down to Miramar, and we hold those standards firm. From time to time, we have to look at our hiring standards or take a look at, what things are we using to exclude or what are our, there's always a little bit of policy making in there. But once we were in that final review process, and there's so many steps to being a police officer. I don't know if anybody here has family members or anybody in law enforcement. Just to get hired, you have to go so many different steps, all the way up to a psychological evaluation, physical agility. There's a lot of things that you have to do to even get to that point to be hired. But who I hire ultimately, and I say, okay, you have that responsibility now to serve this community, is one of the most important things that a chief will ever do. Because that's the community, that's the officer that's going to come to your house or to your business when you need an officer. And how that person treats you and the people in the community and how they keep us safe and do their job every day, how they represent this city. This is a great city. Is very important. Many times people, the first time they actually have an opportunity to get to know or speak to an officer might be when you're in the rearview mirror, you're getting pulled over for something. That may be the only time. Or maybe you came home and unfortunately you're the victim of a crime. Maybe somebody broke into your house. The officers are told, every one of them when they walk in the door, treat people like you would want to be treated or your family would want to be treated. Be professional at all times. And you, above all else, may have the best ability to make somebody's day a little bit better when they're having a bad day. And yes, our officers, they're human beings, they have bad days too. Getting a little bit off track here, but the point of it is there's a human factor in there as well, but ultimately those standards of who we hire is critical. And I will assure every one of you, we will make every effort to close that gap in Miramar. We're close. We're like about 40, we're about 19, I just checked, we're closer, we're edging up a little bit, 19%, but we're still about 20% difference. Now, I actually have a chart that's coming over to show like how we are with other cities. We talk about benchmarking in Pembroke Pines and Sunrise. That's great. We can use that as a how are we doing, but it doesn't matter what Sunrise or Pembroke Pines or Lauderhill or Hallandale Beach is doing. What matters is what's happening in Miramar. That's what's really of concern here. And I think that we've come a long way. I can tell you, having been here 30 years, we've come a long way. And diversity is a strength. It's one of our core values and beliefs. And I think it extends to, I think, your question about command staff representation. It really starts with getting those officers that are interested in taking that next step up to be a supervisor, to come out, take the test, get promoted, and want to take that other direction in their career. I have a sergeant's test Monday, next Monday. I have 42 officers signed up to take that test, and I can assure you that they represent a lot of diversity. I hope we have a good outcome there. But ultimately, though, I will assure you that no matter who we put in the cars and uniforms or who I promote are qualified to do the job and are going to do their jobs very well. I support body cameras. Recently, Orlando hosted the International Chiefs of Police Conference, and I attended up there, went to a lot of workshops. I was actually at the League of Cities Conference in Austin. Commissioner Messon was there also 2 weeks ago. I went to a Ferguson workshop. I'm very aware and watching the comments from the president on down to many members that represent law enforcement, community leadership throughout the country. The benefits of cameras, I believe, outweigh any of the perceived negatives or labor issues that go along with it. The cameras system that I looked at, and I will be working with the commission going forward because the one reason why there's not a single city that I'm aware of in Broward County that has them in all of their patrol cars except Coconut Creek is because of the cost. I was in Austin at a workshop, and I walked up to the cop's office, the gentleman that represents the Office of Justice Programs out of Washington, right off the plane from Washington 2 weeks ago. And I said, great presentation, your Ferguson workshop. I got to ask you, I know I'm the only chief in the room. Are we going to see any money coming this way? Because I guessed, right, what I even do in the math, that we're looking at $750,000 just in startup costs. And then with that, remember, Florida is a public record state, so it's going to be a lot of back-end support. And I was told 2 weeks ago, right now there's no announcement of money coming. President Obama actually said, 2 days ago? And if I read it correctly, I think I saw $263 million being put up through appropriations. And it is a large amount of money. Stretch that across the country, may be competitive. But my intention is to present a recommendation and do exactly what Commissioner Estem is requesting and expecting me to do, is to come back with a feasibility, a cost analysis on there, and a strategy moving forward. I support cameras. You want the cameras working not just you want the camera on the car if you're stopping a traffic violator. You want to have that camera on the car. And then the camera turns on the mic. You get out of the car, you walk up to the vehicle, the driver's side, the passenger car. You really want to capture all of that. So we've looked at all this, and that technology is available today. 10, 15 years ago, we were still in the world of VHS tapes, and it was a nightmare. Some of the technology didn't work very well. I think it's there. And I think that Miramar, I think my department, and for the reasons that were mentioned here, not just for the transparency, accountability, but for the protection of everyone involved, including the officers. I do support cameras, and I'll be working very closely, and if that announcement is made, Commissioner, of a grant process coming up in the near future, I will, of course, be seeking direction from my boss And with the approval and direction, I will be applying for that grant. We don't know yet, we don't have any details, whether it's going to be a match requirement or not. But I support cameras. And there are several other chiefs in Broward County that are also, I'm also a member of the Florida Police Chiefs Association. I represent the chiefs in Broward County. And I can tell you that these conversations are taking place statewide.
When Broward College students, and it's particularly the ones that are residents of the city, they have, right now what's available is they have the opportunity to sign up in February to participate in our Citizens Police Academy, which will open up many opportunities for them to foster that relationship. If the adoption of the Public Safety Advisory Board is approved by this commission that I will be recommending, there serves another opportunity. Also, just being involved, there's many volunteer opportunities that are available and open to not just Broward College students, but we have a ranger program with our high school students where they volunteer under the direction of our police department to get exposure to law enforcement and to provide volunteer service to the community. We're always looking for volunteers, and I think college students, especially those who are here in the city of Miramar, there are many opportunities to get engaged and to get involved, not just with the police department, but the city of Miramar as a whole.
And Miramar is one of the few cities, and this is something we take great pride, and I couldn't do it without the support of our city commission. We have a school resource officer in every school in this city. You won't find the ability, or most cities have not been able to sustain that. So we're in the schools. One of the other programs too, taking advantage of looking at our school ability to have interaction with young folks, and again, it goes and it follows through from elementary, middle, and high school and beyond. We have good relationships with Kaiser, with some of the other schools locally here in Miramar, and we do go out and we do outreach with them in partnerships. And I think in the process, we do bring a message to the students. The other opportunity I think that exists too is that there are criminal justice programs that exist in some of the high schools in the state of Florida. And I became very interested in this just a couple of months ago, actually several months ago, because the criminal justice programs that exist in some of the high schools have to be supported by the schools. But it's a program where there's a certified or former officer who's teacher certified that actually teaches criminal justice classes. And I actually visited a school in Hollywood where I attended when I grew up here, and was very intrigued by it. I've had conversation with the new principal of Miramar High who supports what we're looking to do. The idea here is that we can have a criminal justice program at Miramar High School, and kids have the ability to go through the program, learn all about criminal justice programs, and also for those that have that interest in going on, maybe pursuing a career, we use that as a mechanism to help going forward our staffing, our community service aides. 19, 18 graduating high school, kids aren't going to be ready yet for this job. But let's bring them in. Let's give them another opportunity. Let's let them maybe come in as as community service aides and give them a couple of years with us to develop and grow, and we get a chance to know and evaluate them. But in the process, a lot of information is gleaned. I went to the classroom there last school year and interacted with the students, the teacher, and I brought some staff with me. It was a wonderful experience. It's just another example, though, of letting people know, this is what we do. This is what the police, this is the role of the police, this is the role of the prosecutors. This is how the system works. Because the Citizens Police Academy covers a lot of ground. But generally, you know, I'll get a lot of adults in there. Actually, we get quite a variety of students that come to the program. I will get young people that come through there that are interested in going on to a career in law enforcement. I hired a young man from our community 2 classes ago that graduated from the Citizens Police Academy. He's doing great. To individuals that just say, you know, I'm at home, I just had an interest, or my neighbor told me about the program. But it's such a valuable program. And I agree with Commissioner Messman. There's probably not one better program that we do that involves the community. We are community policing, we have community resource officers embedded, we have school resource officers, all that adds value here. But that one program is a great program. And I'm hoping that part of the outcome today is to raise our participation, where my public affairs specialist come yell at me and say, Chief, you know, I got like 100 applications next class. That's a good problem to have. And then we'll maybe add another academy session next year.
As you can see, there are many ways young individuals, our students, high school students, college students, and just residents in general can get involved. And I'm really excited about the prospects of the Academy at Miramar High School. It's actually would be a mirror program that I worked with our police department to help Everglades High School establish a fire academy, in which we have actually, there's a, I'm not sure if it's a magnet program, but it's a program that's offered by Everglades High School, where students who are interested in a career in being a firefighter or EMS actually go through the fire academy, and our city and our fire department actively sends an instructor every day to be a part of that program. So that'll be an excellent opportunity for the City of Miramar to promote 2 academies in public safety that our students can get involved who choose to pursue a career in either a firefighter, EMS, or a police officer. If an unfortunate situation where a police-involved shooting took place in Miramar, as a public official, literally the first thought that came to my mind was, looking at the data and the statistics, could Miramar be viewed as a Ferguson in the event if there was an unfortunate police-involved shooting? So when you look at, Ferguson, where it's a predominantly minority community, but the elected officials are not reflective of the community, which is not the case here in Miramar. So that doesn't make us look like Ferguson. Well, one of the other hot points from Ferguson, from the media reports, was, well, the police department doesn't reflect that community as well. And then when you look at Miramar, just looking at Miramar, well, does our police department reflect the community? Then the answer is no. I don't think it's the same situation as Ferguson, but it's not necessarily reflective of the community. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing. It just means that when you look at the data, we were consistent in a couple areas. And in the event, if a situation was to take place in Miramar, and someone was to ask me, as an elected official, 1, was I aware? 2, what did I do about it? So when you look at our city, I started looking at, well, what are the resources we have? I said, well, we do have some pretty good resources. I think sometimes are underutilized. So we have to make those resources available to educate the community. And on the other hand, we have to be honest where we have the opportunities to improve. And that discussion that I was having with the city management took place before Ferguson, before August, when that incident happened. So that's why the data was available. We've already had some of these discussions, and that's why even in this press conference, Chief Black was able to even say some of the things that he's looking into, and that 1, it's a priority, and 2, he's aware of it. That's because of some of the initial discussions that has been taking place. So in response to your question, it's having those conversations, whether through hits on social media, calls, text messages, meetings with civic organizations. As an elected official, I have to lead from the standpoint of educating our community on what resources we have available, recognizing and acknowledging where we can improve, and working with our police department and my colleagues on the commission and our city manager and our city administration to address those areas of opportunity, as well as propose policy recommendations such as the creation of the Public Safety Advisory Board, and to request a feasibility study to see what resources that we can acquire, perhaps as card cameras, body cameras, or whatever the case may be, and what those fiscal impacts will be. So we want solutions to address these issues, but we also have to come up with solutions to acquire the solutions. So it's a challenge. It's a continuing process, and I'm proud to represent a city that that recognizes our diversity, appreciates our diversity, and we have to be proactive in ensuring that we ensure that our community is a harmonious community, and that we can coexist in a way that does not compromise public safety, that builds public trust, and continues to make Miramar one of the best places to live. Life is built around relationships. And if the relationship and the public trust is strong between our community and our law enforcement community, when incidents take place that took place in Ferguson, I think it makes it easier to deal with that issue as the issue and as an isolated incident. But if there's no public trust, if there's no relationship between the residents and the police department, then when those incidents take place, you get what happened in Ferguson. My responsibility as an elected official is to ensure and to do everything possible in my power to build the public trust, to improve and increase the relationship between the community and our law enforcement officers. Myself, if I become let's say if I'm a law enforcement officer, I grew up in South Florida, very diverse community. But let's say I move to the Midwest or the Northwest or somewhere where that community is not the same, in which all of my historical and cultural background was founded and based on. It doesn't mean I can't function in that environment. That just means that I have a lot to learn culturally. Ignorance not from the standpoint of a negative standpoint, but just not knowing or just not necessarily understanding a person or a person from a particular culture. There are certain natural stereotypes based on our backgrounds that regardless of your training, regardless of whatever, it's just part of your makeup. So the challenge is educating yourself, becoming more familiar. That's where the relationship part comes into play. Because if I'm not from that area, I need to immerse myself into that community. I need to be exposed to that community so that now I can understand if I make a traffic stop, okay? For example, if I make a traffic stop and I know that there are kids, I have teenage kids. You know, you have kids now, they think it's cool. You know, they have the baggy pants and the oversized shirt, and now I see that kid as one of my own kids because my kids dressed like that. I don't allow them to sag their pants, but I'm just saying I understand that's just the cultural makeup. Now, if I don't understand that's the cultural makeup, then I might see that image as threatening. I'm not saying that this is Miramar. I'm just saying just in general. So I think where the relationship part comes into play is when our residents take part and participate in the Citizens Academy. And they're interfacing with police officers, maybe one that doesn't necessarily look like me or from the same area where I am. And then because of the conversation and the interaction, you can start to relate with one another and begin to understand. And before you make a stop, you can have all of your professional training, but you also have the additional thought and foresight of what it means that I don't necessarily have to take an image that I'm not familiar with and see it as threatening. So, but like I said, any incident, you never know how the community is going to react. What I do know is that if I'm familiar with the scenario, I tend to react differently when I'm not familiar with it.
Being a certified law enforcement officer, we have to apply certain standards and training requirements. So we all have to go through diversity training every 3 years. Last year, I hired a gentleman to come in and do cultural diversity training for the entire police department. And I liked him for a couple of reasons. First off, I liked the gentleman. He's a resident in Miramar. And he did ride-alongs before he came in the classroom. I really liked that. Go out there and ride with the officers. Consistently, all of my officers came back and said, "Chief, we loved the training and 4 hours wasn't enough." That's good feedback for a subject like that. It was very encouraging.
I'm committed to ensuring that we as a city move forward and continue to be that beacon of light here in South Florida. And I think we have a great thing here in Miramar, and it will continue to get even better if we continue to have the public engagement that is shown here today, as well as the city doing its part to continue to educate the community and engaging the community so that we can continue to build those relationships that builds the public trust so that the city can be the best place in this nation to live, work, visit, and play. Thanks so much for coming out, and see you all soon. Thank you.